Hey, it's me, TB, and today I'm bringing to you my worst of 2021 video. Yes, this is supposed to be filmed like a week ago, but I'm just getting to it now because I am very lazy, which should not be a surprise to anyone if you've been here for a while. So just like my best of the year list, which I released like last week, I think this is in no particular order because I don't have time. I don't have like a specific list of things I hate, I guess. There are probably a few books that I hated like a lot that I might get to later. I have no idea how I'm gonna go about this really. So I'm just gonna fake it till I make it and I'll figure it out as it goes. So first of all, there is Tuck Everlasting by someone Babbitt. You'll be able to see it here, so we're all good. This is like a middle grade novel released back in like the 70s, I think. I had to read this for my kidlit class, and it's about this girl that discovers this family that has eternal youth because of like this stream in the middle of the woods, and basically this guy wants to buy the land that their stream is on, and because he wants to like make money off this water or whatever, and stuff happens, I guess. This is here because like it was just boring, and I feel like this book got hyped up for so long because like it's like seen as like a classic of children's literature, and it's just kind of like boring and bad because like the concept of like this place of like eternal life is like so interesting, and like instead it's just very like a boring take on it, I guess. And like it's seen as like a bad thing because it breaks the natural order of things, which feels very like dumb to me because like who the fuck cares? Like but like the stream is here naturally, so obviously like in some way, shape, or form, immortality is part of the natural order. So what the fuck does that mean, you know? And like I feel like as a whole, this one's mostly here because like how much it got hyped up when it comes to like classics people read in school, or that people think are like very influential to like kidlit as a whole. It's just like not good. There's nothing like great about this. I mean, it was short, that was good, I guess, but like nothing here was like very engaging or interesting. It was kind of like bleh. Like I can't name a single thing I liked, but like I can name a lot of things I hated. You know, just how immortality as a whole was handled. The ending I just kind of hated too, because like spoilers, I guess, if you care. As a whole, this video probably will have spoilers. So if I talk about a book you want to read, probably skip that section, maybe, I guess. But the book kind of ends with like our main character, a little girl, being given like a vial of the water after the stream was like destroyed, I guess. With the idea that like if like when she's older, if she decides to become immortal, she can like do that if she wants to. So the family that is like immortal comes back to like visit her like 50 years later because like she never came to visit them. So they kind of want to figure out, you know, what happened to her. And they go to her grave, and they realize that she decided to die instead of like becoming immortal, which was supposed to be like deep, I guess. But they're like stupid, like you really passed up on like becoming immortal to become a mother, I guess, which is like cool, I guess, if you want to do that. But I was like, why not just like do something else with it, or like have a more interesting life? But instead we've got like the most general like just bleh take on things ever. So yeah, that is Tuck Everlasting. So next I want to talk about Devils by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is a Russian classic I had to read for my novel seminar in the novel, something like that, who knows. And I had to read this kind of like show a different structure of novels, which I fucking hated. First, this is long. It is like, I think over 700 pages, and like there is no plot to be seen. There aren't even like vibes. There's like some like, the plot is like pitched about like being about the small town that has revolutionaries come to it and how they can like fuck up the town. The author was very like conservative and very like against change and the revolutionaries during his time. So it's kind of just like boomer literature basically, except written in like 1871. So yeah, and just like that's like the main issue I have is that there is no structure whatsoever. Like the whole thing about the revolutionaries being bad is just so like poorly done to the point of being comical and like not a good way. Like the back says it's supposed to be like that the novel is full of buffoonery and a grotesque comedy, but like you're supposed to take like his critique on the revolutionaries seriously, but like it's done so like badly that it feels like how conservatives today view like liberals, and how like they think that the Democratic Party is like very smart and like scheming, but like you're actually like a liberal, you know, that the Democratic Party is very like stupid. So it's kind of like that. And the ending is also just so bleh because like it feels so fucking out of character and stupid that like people would never do that, you know. I feel like they're just so full of like death that does nothing besides like shock value because like someone died, you know. So it feels like very just like stupid for no reason, and maybe I don't get it, but personally I feel like this is just bad. So there we go. Like we don't even meet our main characters until like probably over like almost 200 pages in. Like, that's how long we spend just like fucking around doing nothing, is like so long, and we don't even get like our characters for like almost a third of the book. Like, that is the pace of this book. Nothing gets resolved, nothing happens or changes. It's kind of like a boring experience. So yeah, that's Devils. I hate it. And if that doesn't sound like a good plot synopsis to you, that's because there is no plot. So I couldn't tell you anything even if I wanted to. Speaking of no plot, here is Nightwood by Juana Barnes, I think. You'll be able to see it here if that is her name. But I have no idea what this is about, which is why it's next to Devils in this list, because like I tried to like refresh myself about what this is about, but like no one has any like good summary about this or like synopsis, so I have no idea. I remember that I hated it and that I was very confused the entire time because the plot never felt connected about anything. It kind of felt like it was meandering between like everything really. So yeah, besides the fact that I hated it. So there we go. So yeah, that's Nightwood. It was a bad time, and I'm kind of angry that I wasted like 3 hours listening to the audiobook because it is pretty short, so you know, that's good. But yeah, it was just like a very bad time. The plot made no sense. I never understood what was going on really. And like, I think this is like one of the earliest like lesbian novels, which is cool, I guess. But like, even that part, from what I do remember about it, is just not very engaging or like, interesting about it. So yeah, not a great time. You know, 0 out of 10, do not recommend. So yeah, that's Nightwood. Yeah. So next is Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie, which as a whole, let me just say, I read a lot of Agatha Christie in the last like 2 or 3 years, and like most of her books are just kind of shit. It's just not well written at all, which, you know, kind of brings into question her title as like the Queen of Mystery, because like her mysteries aren't that well written usually. They're usually actually pretty shit. So yeah, Sparkling Cyanide is about at this like birthday dinner, the like birthday girl, like someone important is killed, and her name is Rosemary. A year on from those events, her family decides to host a dinner in the same place at the same time with the same people invited to kind of figure out who killed her, basically. And my biggest problem with this book is that like the first half of this book, no lie, the first half is literally just like a recap of what happened like 1 year ago, and kind of like everyone's thoughts leading up to her death, and like reacting to her death, because you have like POVs from like everyone in this book, and like so you see like everyone and their like thoughts and feelings as is happening on the day that it happens. And then part 2 is kind of like them going again on the 1 year anniversary and their thoughts and feelings as tragedy strikes again, basically. So yeah, like that was one of the biggest problems, like most of the book isn't even a mystery, it's just like build up to a mystery, which feels very like wasted space, you know? And then another major issue is like, while there are different POVs, they're all just not well written at all. And what I mean by this is that like they all like read exactly the same, with like no different thoughts or feelings. So there would be times when the POV shifted and like I had no idea who was talking, because like they all read identical, like no different features at all, really. So yeah, it's one of the mysteries that like as a whole, Agatha Christie is very confusing with her mysteries, because like she would give you like 20 characters within the first like 20 pages, and they're all important. Like you only get like their background information once, and they just kind of expect you to like just know it the whole time. So it's kind of like confusing as fuck usually anyway. But it's just like extra bad because like the mystery wasn't even there for most of the book. Just like background filler fluff the entire time. So yeah, not a great time. And the twist was not memorable. I don't think. It's another case of like Agatha Christie being very like a really great idea, very like bad execution, because like it's been so fucking cool and great and like interesting and like engaging, but instead it's just kind of like shit, you know? And as a whole, I think I'm not going to read any more Agatha Christie, because like I've read like at least 10 books by her, and like of those 10, 2 have been like really great, and the rest have been pretty like bleh, or just bad, or just like really bad. So like nothing is great here. And as a whole, you'll have more fun reading the little like synopsis of her books on Wikipedia anyway. So just if you want to read these, just read the entire summary on Wikipedia and call it a day, you know? Because 1, it will read better, and 2, it'll probably be more interesting as a whole. So there. Next is the Decagon House Murders. Okay, and this is about this group of kids that go, or they're not kids, they're like university students, but they go to this spooky abandoned like house on an island. Like it's like the remnants of a house, I guess, because the house burned down. because like many years ago there was like a murder suicide, and the house was burned down as well, and you know, a whole thing there because they go on to like be nosy. It's just, I think they're like a mystery writers club or something like that. So like for most of the book, they're called by like names like famous detectives or like mystery writers. So I think one character in this is actually called Agatha. So that was kind of like weird too, I guess, and like cool, I guess. But it's still here, you know. So, and of course, while they're there, they start getting like killed off one by one. And of course, the reveal was supposed to be shocking, but like, I feel like the reveal was so just bleh. And like, I don't know, it did nothing for me. So there's that. And oh yeah, there's also like a second, like, I guess like section every few chapters that's basically like a mainland section, which is like people on the mainland away from the island. I'm kind of like see what's going on the mainland, which it is important, but I hated the section because they were so fucking boring. We are seeing like investigations into the background of the island, I think. So they were so fucking boring to read. They were just like not a fun time at all. So yeah, it was like a great idea. I did like parts of it, but like it was not a good time. Between like the mainland sections were very like boring to read, and the epilogue, which apparently I really hated. Yeah, it was just like it was not a good time for me. I remember the twist being like interesting, but in my review I also say that the epilogue ruins the twist for me. So no idea what I meant by that, but there you go. So next isn't really like a novel, but it is a play, which I had to read for a class, so it is here. And it's probably the worst play I had to read for that class. And this is Glengarry, Glen Ross. So what the fuck is this about? This is about these like insurance agents or like real estate people. I forget which. I think it's real estate people. But they're trying to like sell off this land, and like there were like 6 characters and they're all in like groups of 2, like 3 groups of 2, I think. And they all are trying to like sell them like really good land, like make money quick. Basically, how the fuck do I explain this shit? It's so fucking stupid. But one of the groups decides to plan to like steal the information about the real estate to like sell it off to their competitor, to like, because the competitor said that if they'll steal it, he'll like give them a lot of money. So like, fuck it, why not? They do, and then one of them gets caught stealing. And yeah, that's about the entire play summarized. This is here because like it was so fucking badly written. It feels like a fucking joke, you know? And the worst part about this is that I hate it so much, and somehow I think it won one of the major like literary awards, which there must have been like no other play released that year, because like I refuse to believe this won an award with like how bad it was just entirely written and composed, because like it was not a good time. Like this is because like I read this and then I went into class and I had no idea what even happened, because like the play made 0 sense like at all. Like even when we were like in class discussing it, like no one would talk because like no one had any idea what happened. So I had to carry it anyway, which was a struggle bus the entire time, because there was like nothing I could say about this book that I actually knew for sure. I'm just like guesstimates, because like this made no fucking sense. I hated it. It was boring. Really the worst play I read all last year. So good for it. And as a whole, it's made me kind of like think about how like awards mean nothing. Because if this won a very like highbrow literary award, you know, they mean nothing, because this was just kind of shit. So next is probably one of the more controversial picks on this list, or like one of 2 probably controversial picks, we'll be honest. That is House of Leaves. This was just bad as a whole. This is one of the things where like a straight white guy had an idea, and the publisher went along with it, even though the actual like product of it was very shit. So instead, we have to deal with like this very bad book being hyped up by other straight white people, because like there's nothing good about this book. It's just like this book kind of like proof that if you are a straight white man, you can write absolute garbage and like win awards for it. So what is it about? It's about fucking too much, basically. So we are introduced to our main guy who I don't even know anymore. No. So our main like narrator of the whole thing is Johnny Truant, and he basically finds this manuscript in his like dead friend's apartment, and the manuscript is going over this house where there's this like abyss that's like slowly growing, and once you're inside of it, it's hard to find your way back out, because the inside of this like abyss is constantly changing and shifting around. So yeah, that part was spooky, but like overall the sections that Johnny is here for are so like not good and not fun to read. Like the house story is very spooky, but Johnny's so fucking infuriating to read about. People will hype this up for you as like it's so cool because like the text is like in a lot of like weird directions, which okay, you don't have to like do that much at all for that shit. It's like people talk about it as if like you're constantly like flipping it all around, but you do that like once or twice. like in like a one section maybe, and like most of it is just like reading this. You're just reading it like a normal book basically. There's nothing special about it. Like even this section, you're not supposed to actually like read it. It's just like there for like fluff basically. Like this. This looks like a lot of text that's gonna be very hard to read, but in actuality, like this entire column and this blue square, this is all like filler fluff that does absolutely nothing for the overall narrative at all. It's literally stuff for you to like skip basically. So yeah, and then there is stuff like this. Obviously, you feel like really artistic and like symbolic of what is going on. But like this killed so many trees for this shitty ass novel. For this, like, how many trees did I have to like print out like thousands of copies of this book, and it's so just like shit. Like, what the fuck is that? And then Johnny's sections are basically just him being horny all the time. Like, you're not gonna think like a single section from him that isn't him being horny about some girl and make it sound like really awkwardly written sex. So yeah, as a whole, I'm gonna be honest, if you want to read this, skip everything that Johnny says, skip all the footnotes because they add nothing. People swear up and down that it adds so much like context, like mystery to it, but it adds fucking nothing to the overall narrative at all. Like just like filler fluff that people lie about. Like literally, the only good part is the like a manuscript story within it about the house and the spooky hallway. Like everything else is just like shit. There's nothing else that is good about this book that is like well written about this book. It's just a good concept but a horrible execution. Like an absolutely like this might actually be the worst book on this list if I didn't read like 2 series that tells you anything. There you go. So yeah, House of Leaves. This only gets hype if you are a straight white guy, because otherwise this is just shit. And there are better written books by literally anyone else ever. Like there are like probably better books written at any other time period in any other part of the world besides this. Like I think I would rather learn every language known to mankind ever in history, like forever, than ever have to read this ever again, because like this is just a bad time. I was miserable the entire time. This took like a month to read it as a class. So yeah, this is just shit. There's nothing good here. So yeah, and again, just to reiterate my point, people lie so much about this book. There is no reason to read the footnotes. It adds nothing to the story. The structural things that the people always like praise it for are very like basic and minor, and they do nothing for the story at all. So yeah, this killed so many trees, and there's probably a reason that this is the only book by the author that is very popular, because people bought into the very unique concept of it. And next up is the other most controversial pick on this list, and that is In the Dream House. This is about the author kind of coming to terms with her abusive relationship, and it's here mostly because like how hyped up this was by like literally everyone as like groundbreaking work of fiction that changed the world of like abuse as we know it, because of how groundbreaking it was, which I'm here to tell you. As someone that was also in a very toxic and bad relationship as a whole, you could not get more surface level and basic than this. Like there's nothing deep about this at all. This is like the most very basic generic take on abuse ever. The entire book is basically summarized as like it is hard to leave an abusive relationship. So it's basically the entire book summarized in like one sentence. And like it is important, but it's like it's not as groundbreaking as everyone made it sound. Like again, maybe it's because I'm already experienced in this field. It's like none of this was like new to me. Maybe that's it. I don't know. This book is like peak pretentious MFA writer style. You can tell that the author did her little MFA program and wanted to flex about it so badly. It is mentioned so many times that she is going in for her MFA, and like you can tell because like this book is written with like the most pretentious diction I read in a very long time, and I had to read academic journals for school all the time. Like this is somehow more pretentious than academic journals, which is a feat in and of itself. It's not even like a good pretentious. It's just kind of like a very, very poorly written version of pretentious. Like when someone is trying too hard to be pretentious, that kind of style. And like the thing is that with going back to like how that's portrayed, it's a very like basic thing. The entire book is kind of going over that same concept over and over again, like repeatedly. And obviously, it's like mimic how abuse is cyclical. It isn't like a one-way process to like get out of abuse, obviously. But this could have been like a short story, a novella maybe, not like a full-length novel that does the exact same concept for like the entire time. Like the issue is that all of this is just like at face value shit. Just like why even waste your time doing this very like fancy writing style if you're going to do like very like basic one-on-one takes on abuse, So yeah, not a great time. You know what? Maybe I don't know this, but I feel like part of this was just people being shocked that like women can be abusive too, which is like very duh. Again, I was also molested as a child by a woman. So again, the idea like a woman being abusive was not this groundbreaking revelation that it might have been for you, because I've already experienced that, so I already know that. So no real surprise there at all. It's just very like basic 101. You could probably understand the exact same depths of like abusive relationships by reading like a summary of like what makes one on like some website about like psychology maybe. Very pretentious, and I feel like I could have better used my time doing literally anything else. But it was assigned reading, so here we are. I had to suffer for weeks on this. So this next one might be quick or very long, who knows. But this is Dead Ever After by Charlaine Harris. This is the final Sookie Stackhouse book, and to kind of tell you how bad this is, literally the entire like fandom for this series kind of mutually agrees that the last book is the worst in the entire series. That is how bad it is. So, the entire series spends a lot of time building up this one specific relationship, okay? Like this one guy's kind of built up for the last like 4 or 5 books as like the main goal, you know? Book 13, it says, fuck that, and gives us this other guy, and we're trying to like agree with her that, and kind of like go along with it, I guess. But it's written so fucking badly that it's like, this is not good time at all. And you can also tell the author kind of like gave up as a whole, because like these last like 2 or 3 books in the series were just very bad. The plots were just fucking awful. The characters felt very like out of character, to be honest. And like honestly, the ending feels so fucking bad, because this other guy could have been built up just fine, but just the fact that like the guy we are like forced to end up with, he had another girl in the like previous books. So, like he had like no chance to build up at all throughout the entire series basically. So like quite literally he comes out of nowhere, and you're just expected to like go along with it, I guess. And yeah, it fucking sucked. Would I still recommend the series? Yes, because books like 3 to like 9 are so fucking good. They're all like 5 and 4 stars. This one is a 1 star easily, because it was fucking awful. Like I've never seen an author fuck up a series this badly ever. Like, well, it might be, you know, tied with the next entry, but for now, yeah, this is probably by far one of the like worst series enders I've ever read. So yeah, I should probably tell you what the Sookie Stackhouse series is about. Basically, Sookie is a telepath, and people think she's weird because of it. And one day, in this world, like many years ago, vampires have come out basically that they exist because there's synthetic blood that kind of like allows them to exist without needing to kill people. And one day, a vampire comes to the bar where Sookie works, and from there like a little romance happens. And from there, she gets basically a lot of shit happens to her. She meets other vampires, werewolves, berries, a variety of creatures really. She is sent into a pyramid that explodes. She gets kidnapped a few times. She gets raped at least like once or twice. She almost dies like so many fucking times. She gets tortured once. Her life is kind of like a shit show by the end of the series. So yeah, it's like a whole thing. I do kind of want to go do like a whole like series review one day, like sit down and film that eventually. So yeah, and this last one is also like kind of cheating, kind of not, because this is kind of like it is the last book and also the entire series as a whole, and that is the Darkness Rising series by Kelly Armstrong. So this is a sequel series behind our other like most popular series, which is called the Darkest Power series. So heavy spoilers, because it's mostly about like the last book, which is called The Rising, I think. Yeah, The Rising. So The Rising. So just to kind of explain things to you. Our main characters are mostly people with powers. In the first series, our main character is a necromancer, and her love interest is a werewolf. And this one, our main character in the Darkness Rising series is a shapeshifter. I'm gonna jump straight into like why the series fucking failed so hard in the last book, because like I have so many feelings and they're all kind of just bad now. So this like sequel series is basically about our main character and her friends that live in this very like isolated town. It's mostly like funded by the pharmacy company. Obviously shady shit is going on, but no one thinks that at first, because like they've all lived here, and the pharmacy kind of like is where all their parents work and how all their parents get like, good money and stuff. So it's kind of like a setting for like for the sequel series. And so the reason why this like whole series, I guess, like these like both these series are on this list is because in neither conclusion, because like this is like two trilogies back to back basically, and neither final book has any sense of like actual conclusion at all. So like you quite literally have suffered through 6 books of like plot, world building, you know, romance, intrigue, so on and so forth. And you've gone through 6 books of that, right? So you would expect that like the entire series has been fighting against this like shadowy organization who is like making people vanish and killing people. You know, probably not a group of people that you should ever trust ever, especially given the fact that like this group has killed like multiple friends throughout the entire series, the entire 6 books, you know? So again, not a great organization, you know? So our main characters in the final book of this whole like series basically decide to give up. I'm not shitting you. This series ends with the main characters of the first trilogy and main characters of the second trilogy both turning themselves in and giving up. And they decide to kind of like live under this organization until they're all grown up, and then maybe one day they will fight against them again. But I'm not shitting you. The series ends with our heroes giving up. So yeah, that's fucking awful. They're just gonna give up. Why didn't they give up earlier? I suffered through like 6 books of like plot moving, but not moving a lot, only to get them giving up at the very end. So yeah, shouldn't be that hard to guess why that's on this list. Even then, like there's so many plot threads that don't even get addressed. Even in the very last book, they're like plot important events that come up that just get dropped entirely and never get like addressed at all. Like even in the first trilogy, there's so many plot points that get dropped that feel very important that never get talked about. Imagine having 6 books and somehow there's still so much shit left unresolved. So yeah, that is the Darkness Rising series and the Darkness Whatever series by Caine Armstrong. I hated it. And yeah, that is the end of my worst books of 2021 list. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe, like, share, all of that. Hopefully I will see you next week.